Hey everyone, welcome back to the Movie Date with Rob and Matt, a podcast about people who love to talk about movies but don't want to be too smug about it. I'm Matt.
And I'm Rob.
And we're glad to be back in the chairs.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have a little short episode today, right? Because we both saw a movie we liked.
I'd like to say it's a short episode. Really, the other ones are just long episodes.
That's true.
It would be the more accurate way to say that.
Well, how are you doing, Rob?
I'm doing good, man. I've been working this new job. I'm so exhausted.
Very nice.
And I'm trying to hold it together and get through it. I'm working this job so I can get this job at this another place. I'm trying to get like a job up at Guitar Center because I know a lot about recording stuff and music stuff and guitars and stuff. And like
he's the one who runs this whole deal.
Yeah,
and obviously I came in later. There wasn't a chicken and the egg situation.
Well, this is pretty. Podcasting is pretty easy to do. You can do it with less stuff than I have here.
Well, I guess you're only working with one sound.
Yeah, that too.
So just us.
But also, like, I want to get a job there because I'll be making exactly what I make on. Hello, darling. I've been making I want to get a job there because I can make what I'm making now. Plus, I'll be making commission at Guitar Center. So
yeah, I had a friend.
My job.
I had a friend who worked up in Guitar Center and worked the tech. Like worked on like the drums and things like that, and he got
nice.
a lot of commission work from doing because he's a multi-instrumentalist, so he knows how to play drums, knows how to play bass, knows how to play guitar.
Who's this person? What's his name?
Brian?
Brian? Oh, never mind. I thought you were thinking. I have a friend up there who just sounds like my friend who used to work there as well.
They probably know each other. He's moved recently, so he's not up there anymore.
Well, today we're talking. This isn't a music podcast. Get out of here with your.
We can talk music, but that ain't what you're here
junk,
for.
Nerds. This is
because with music we can get smug about it, but with film,
God, I try hard not to get smug about music, especially being a producer and like having to mix
and
people's stuff and being like, yeah, it sounds great, man, like or whatever. Like I just like I'm at the point where like my last co-host didn't like my taste in music very much, so I just
don't
sort
mean
of,
to burn you there.
No, it's fine. I just sort of let everyone love what they love and love what you love and don't apologize for it. And doing this makes me have a bigger appreciation for every kind of music, whether it's like really tight, like progressive metal, like Periphery,
Your Tool
or
kind
like,
of material, and
or like I'm
or lo-fi, garagey,
yeah, or like
stuff.
I cut my teeth on like metal music. Like I grew up listening to like Killswitch and As I Lay Dying, and like those were the bands that I wanted to like make my music somewhat sound like. But I also like she has me listening to like the Decemberists and stuff.
Yeah.
So like
well, me and your brother, of course, being former roommates and everything, our music taste definitely was very similar.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So we played the same records and everything else. So I came out of the young punk kid who was, a teenager, but listening to the Clash and being like, all this emo stuff sucks. Yeah. And then that was
some
like,
of that emo stuff. Like one of my first records I ever bought was "Discovering the Waterfront" by Silverstein. It's a great little record.
And now I go back on it and I'm like, hey, those first two My Chemical Romance albums are legitimately great.
I still
and
love
we're
the
important.
I love the Black Parade. I think it's great.
It is very good.
Anyway, so we're talking about Knives Out, the new thriller by, I guess it's a thriller. It's weirdly fun.
I've been saying caper. But it's a new whodunit caper thriller
by Rian Johnson.
Rian Johnson
from TLJ and Looper and Brick and what's the one with the brothers?
The Brothers Bloom.
The Brothers Bloom. Not like any of his other movies.
No, that's one to check out again. But that's kind of like. Oh, that's right. He did that one with Adrian Brody. Yeah, and it's kind of really colorful and slick, and
it's kind of like a weird Wes Anderson-y.
Yeah, it's also a caper.
Yeah.
It's also kind of because I think that if I remember the plot, it's Rachel Weisz.
Yeah,
and they're trying to. She's like a reclusive prodigy who has a lot of money, and so they're trying to scam her into it. And talking a couple episodes ago,
it's weird to think that the guy who did that did Looper, the movie that has a scene where the guy's arms and legs slowly fall off.
Yeah, vanish over time.
Vanish because they're cutting them off in the past, and his nose goes away.
And there's a kid just carrying people and blowing people up, and
that
everything.
happens. And she's looking at me like, "What are you talking about?" In Looper, there's a part where they capture. It's about time travel, and they capture a guy's younger self, and they they cut his fingers off, and then his hand. The things disappear as he's driving. There's a really great shot where as he's driving, he has his foot on the gas and then his leg disappears. It crumples into his. It's horrifying.
Basically, it's like if Marty McFly didn't save his dad from the moment when he's up on stage if the guitar just fell out of his hand and he's just armless Marty McFly up there.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
Yeah,
it's weird that he
fun.
did that movie, but. Brothers Bloom, weird black sheep movie that he just made, but I like it. It's
got Mark Ruffalo and
Adrian Brody and Owen Wilson,
and
or is it Owen Wilson?
I don't know. I can't remember the actress's name, but a Japanese actress, was in it who I think had been popular at the time because she was in that Babel movie.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about,
but I don't recall her name. What it reminded me of is talking about Rian Johnson is him being an admitted fan of anime. Is it was a very anime-esque movie because it was very stylish. It reminded me of the Loop on the Third series a little bit because they were all kind of like slick, cool thieves who were a little eccentric and colorful. And I was like,
it's like if Wes Anderson did an Ocean's 11 movie or something. It's weird. You also told me that he based Joseph Gordon-Levitt in Brick. He based his like pocket moving off of Cowboy Bebop.
Off Spike from Cowboy Bebop.
Which now that I go back, I watched a clip of it at work like 3 days ago or whatever, and I was like, it is like Spike. It is like Cowboy Bebop.
His little nerdy references in there.
So let's talk some movie news.
Yeah, we have a quick little
news. You showed me the first trailer for Tenet by the new Christopher Nolan film, and they just released it like, I don't know, 4 hours ago.
Yeah, this is
debuted.
Fresh
drop. What was your first like impression watching that trailer? Because I think it's close to mine.
I feel like the fact that I watched it on my broken phone screen is not giving it service enough for how big Christopher Nolan wants me to know.
Yeah,
how big
we watched
this movie
it. We
is.
watched it in here on full screen. On the nice
I appreciated it more on a bigger screen.
Yeah,
but
the shot of the dude sailing up to the big windmills in space.
It's just a bunch of windmills in the ocean.
Not in space, in the sea.
Yeah, this one's terrestrial, I think. It's just like anything that when Christopher Nolan first puts it out, if you don't recognize what it is, I mean, if it's obviously not Dunkirk, which is a historical event, or Batman, which is a known IP, you're just going to kind of, we're going to be like, what is this going? Because I always think Nolan is somebody who comes up with a thing he wants to do with the physical world, whether it be time, space, dreams, and then from there he puts technique behind it, special effects, cinematography. There's a lot of parkouring running around in this movie. There's a lot of ropes and rappelling and everything. And
yeah, he has a weird visual style where he loves practical effects, like the turning table in not the table, the turning hallway in Inception is a real thing.
Yeah,
and Joseph Gordon-Levitt talked about like what it was like doing that fight, and he goes, it was insane, and it's a great effect too because when you watch it, they build like a big giant hallway with things on each end of it, and this giant machine turns it.
It's like when you go up into one of those planes that simulates zero-G, except they just built it in a studio and they just spin this thing around and they're just walking on walls.
That part where there's a couple of cool practical effects in there where they're jumping up the side of the building with the grapples on. I was like, that looks really cool.
Yeah, it looks
I
seamless.
I have a vague sense, like most of his movies have some sort of plot device-y narrative structure thing. Like Dunkirk has the watch that you're following an event in a out of order time thingy, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't for his movies.
Because in that one you're following multiple people involved in the whole. Every element of what made that historical event happen and the British military in general.
Right. And like, Batman Begins has one with the out of order storytelling. Memento. I have a synopsis here for this. I'm going to read it real quick.
Yeah, this is because the one thing is like when you first see this trailer, you're like, I think just like you and I said, what exactly is this premise?
There's a part in the trailer where they're driving next to like a car in this high-speed car chase, and like Robert Pattinson, the new Batman, ironically enough, is in there driving next to John David Washington, and this big gold car flips and wrecks, and then it reverses itself.
Rebuilds itself on the road.
And then starts driving again, and Robert Pattinson looked like he gave zero fucks about it. He was like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
and John David Washington was like, what? Like, so the synopsis is 2 international spies are sent out to stop World War III from occurring at the hands of a mysterious threat using the unique technology of time reversal. So we're right. There is some sort of you can see things before they happen in real time.
Okay.
In something. So like it sounds like an interesting concept. I'm excited to see it. I love the tone. I for the most part like all of his movies. Some of these things he does with like times and narrative devices, they don't always work as well as I think he thinks they work.
Yeah. Well, I have to appreciate how bold he is with his ideas.
Right.
Like he'll just be like, no, I'm going for the farthest length of it. With Inception, it's like, no, we're going into dreams and we're going to deal with
dream
that concept.
heists, baby.
Yeah. Interstellar, it's like, no, we're going to the ends of black holes in the infinite. And it's like, oh, you don't limit yourself.
Yeah.
Even something smaller like Memento, where it's like, no, I'm going to play with memory and like the reversal of memory. And it's like, oh, that's pretty wild.
I actually, and because of that, I like some of his bigger, high-minded stuff, but I've also grown to really appreciate, like, that's why I like Dunkirk so much, because Dunkirk essentially is just a love letter to England.
Yeah.
In a way,
It's that perseverance of the English bear, you know, that.
And when we got to the end of it, and I think it's Harry Styles in it who's doing, he reads the Churchill speech of "We'll fight them on the beaches, we'll fight them on the landing brows, we'll never surrender." And I was like, oh, like that's why, because the whole time I was watching this movie, I was like, it's a good movie, but like, why did he make this?
Yeah,
like,
what is the purpose?
Like, it is a stirring story, and then at the end, I got to the point, I was like, oh, it's his love letter to England and the people of England for persevering through World War II.
Because
it also has his least groundbreaking movie. Like there's parts where like a ship gets hit and you see the water rise, and they filmed this whole thing with actors, and like the ship turns. So like there's some cool practical effects in it,
but it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
it's not a gimmicky kind of deal.
And like I ended up appreciating that movie a lot because of that. And I kind of, but honestly, when I go to a Christopher Nolan movie, I go like, I want to see like the Prestiges, and I want to see the Inceptions.
I haven't seen the Prestige.
You haven't seen the Prestige?
No,
oh,
I've almost forgot about it.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I was like, oh wait, that's a Prestige.
It's probably my favorite one.
Okay, I've heard some really good things.
And
about
the twist
it.
at the end, even people.
I know what I know what that is.
So you know what the twist is.
Well, that one's almost become sort of like the Darth Vader thing, where it's like, oh, but
it is a twist, but it's also like, it's an interpretive twist. It's sort of like he never explains the thimble
top
at the end of Inception. Like he has like, well, how do you see it? There's 2 ways you can look at the ending of The Prestige, and both are horrifying. But like I think it's my favorite one of his.
Yeah,
has the best performances, and it feels like David Bowie's in it. And
David Bowie plays Nikola Tesla. I know that. I've seen that scene of him walking with the electricity and everything. I'm like, cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
Neat.
My least favorite is Interstellar, just because it's just him at his most insane. It's just like love is a bookcase through a black hole and stuff.
Oh yeah, I was your ghost, Smurf.
Yeah,
I did. I mean, that movie got me though.
I don't hate it.
For a man who is so good at this almost hyper clean, stylistic Kubrick-esque technology, he'll throw heart at you and you don't expect it. He throws feels at you, and but
that's where I liked the movie. Is because like I was like, this is all bullshit. But then I was like, when the scene where he's been in space for so long, his daughter turned into a 23-year-old woman or however old Jessica Chastain is, and he just looks at it and he starts crying uncontrollably. Yeah, I was like, that got me.
It helps that McConaughey sells the whole deal.
Yeah, there's the part where they go down to the planet because the planet is near a black hole. The black hole is suctioning time away from the planet. So they go down for 2 hours, but they come back up to the ship, and it's been like 7 years.
And that guy, the guy they left there is now like 60-something years old, and it's like, I was waiting.
Can you imagine how awful that would be? Like,
oh yeah,
we're just gonna be gone for 2 hours. You come back, it's like 7-8 years later, and his beard is gray, and he's like, I waited 8 years on this small ship for you.
The concept is such a gut wrencher. It's just like,
like Anne Hathaway just gives him a big hug, because like, what could you do? What could you say to someone after something like that?
Yeah, that's not
because he has no idea if you're gonna die down there.
Right.
Because if you die, he's there forever.
See, like I also. Exactly.
Because he'd have to be like, okay, to them it's just 2 hours, but what if they die and I'm here for the rest of my life? Because I'd be waiting, never not knowing, should I turn this thing around and go home? And like the part where they open up the thing and the tomb or whatever, and Matt Damon's in there and he comes out and he just starts crying immediately, like, oh, thank God. There's a lot of, you don't remember that part?
No, I do. I just remembered something I really loved about the film.
Yeah.
Is Matt Damon's character. Because I remember getting in that film analytical brain when I walked away. I was like, Matt Damon's character, because you know about him early on. You never see him, but you hear about him.
Yeah, he's led the first mission or whatever.
And he's like this intrepid hero who like came first and everything. And it's like, yeah, he's our icon. He's our symbol of humanity's successes.
Yeah.
But he turns and he becomes the symbol of humanity's cowardice.
Yeah.
And humanity's fear, and that fear causes him to retaliate and become the villain. Yeah. And I was like, that's really smart. That's real. Like I was like sitting in the theater watching it, I'd be like, I got it, Nolan.
Yeah, and
I got
also,
it. He represents not America. Well, maybe he represents humanity's greatest weakness, which is fear.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, cool.
And you can't even really blame him.
No.
He put himself in cryo sleep, hoping to God someone would come and rescue him before his little hut that he lives in depowers and he dies.
Right.
So like it's like when that's why I said like the heart is what sells that movie. If you don't think too hard, if you start looking at the science, start like thinking too hard, you'd lose your mind.
It's a noble effort, and it looks like something you've not seen before.
Yeah, it looks like real space in a way.
When it gets into the hallway or beyond, when he goes beyond space and time and he's in that crystallic, extraverse, it's like, well, I've never seen anything like that before.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Obviously, this is completely theoretical. There's not a hint of evidence that this could be true, but I'm like, that's neat. That's neat as all get out.
But for a movie about like black holes, and black holes lead to alternate dimensions of space unified by love, and there's a part where Anne Hathaway reaches out to that little ghosty figure when they go through the portal or whatever the first time, and it's like there's another thing, and that's Matthew McConaughey. Like it's all all ridiculous.
It's all ridiculous.
But the thing that makes it good is that like those characters pack a lot of heart in there.
Well, it shows how I think that is a smart move from Nolan, is that he's like, well, I can't really buoy this whole thing on just the science
Crazy,
and the
weird
tech,
science.
So I have to infuse it with humanity. I have to be like, it's the human heart. Transcends.
It's weird that I feel like it's like he made this around the time he was doing Man of Steel, because I felt a lot of the same feels in a way for a lot of those scenes. Anyway,
good point.
I'm gonna see it. The trailer looks crazy. I want like a more clear cut story trailer, but we may or may not get that from him.
Yeah, it'll probably be next year which is only a couple weeks away, but it'll only be sometime later.
So I'm pretty
looks like a good cast though.
Yeah. It looks great.
Yeah, loving more Robert Pattinson and things.
Yeah, he's good, that kid, isn't he? He makes millions of dollars to do what he does. That's right. So The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
I am 6 episodes into The Mandalorian. We just watched the one with Bill Burr on it. Mm-hmm. He's pretty good at it. He did a good job. I think this show is one half like daring go where no Star Wars thing has gone before show, and one half Disney playing it safe kind of thing. And I think it depends on which episode you watch.
Yeah.
And it depends on like what you want out of this show. But I am getting like weirdly tired of every time a Star Wars thing comes out and everyone's like, this one, I know, like, all the new Star Wars stuff is really controversial, but this one really feels like Star Wars. Because they say that every time.
It's either that or it's this is what I've been wanting from Star Wars.
Yeah.
The whole time. And
like when Rogue One came out, I was like, this is the one that really feels. And then like Solo came out, like, no, this is the one that really feels.
I felt like that voice was probably a little quieter, but. That was something I wanted from that. I actually like Solo quite a bit.
So do I.
That's kind of part of why I like Mando so much. And I'm already caught up. I've watched episode 7, so I've watched the whole thing.
Oh, so you're ahead of me then?
Yeah, I'm ahead of you. And
we'll do like a full episode. I just wanted to.
Yeah, we'll do a whole Mandalorian Power Hour.
But I'm feeling. Hi, sweetheart.
What's up, Strawberry? Oh, you literally have strawberries. I didn't even notice. I was just commenting on your outfit.
It's okay.
I couldn't close the fridge because of the...
Sweet girl, where's my hug at?
Oh. She's like, oh.
Sorry, Robert, you couldn't come.
No, it's okay.
Oh. We're gonna
co-host. Just saying. Like,
hot take. You saw him at my store, yeah. Thank you. I'm always happy to see you guys.
I love you.
I'm very excited to talk because she's such a sweetheart.
Yeah. No, I feel like this show, first of all, it definitely looks like they shelled out all the money for that show. Mm-hmm. That show's like $20 million an episode.
And they still have so much of it that's pretty minimal.
The thing that I don't like, or the thing that I maybe wanted more of, is like it feels like there's not much of an overarching plot after you get out of that first 2 to 3 episodes. It feels like a Bonanza thing where, oh, this time we meet this old person from his past and they have a quick little adventure, but it's ultimately non-congruous to what the plot actually is. And I feel like I'll give you some of those if you start giving me like a real, like, where's this going? What's the story? I want some more lore. You have an 8-episode series to really introduce some world building into Star Wars, like,
which I think you need that episodic stuff to do that.
Yeah, and like
that's kind of why I like it.
They've done a little bit of that with like, oh, the Mandalorians, this is the way,
Yeah.
and the underground. We're spoiling some of it right now. There's other Mandalorians in the show in the beginning, so
Yeah, I mean, you see it in the first episode that it's very clear because I think we 3 years after Jedi, I think 5 years after the fall of the Empire, and so it's kind of just lawless cowboy world,
which I like.
I absolutely love to death. That's my jam is space westerns.
Yeah, I read a review that was basically like what the Mandalorian actually gives you more than anything else, as opposed to like a gripping plot or wonderful acting, is like it gives you like a tone. It gives you a feel. Like it's like their do-over of Boba Fett, with like they wanted to give you a feel of all the things that Star Wars was originally based on, which is like samurai movies and westerns and all those things.
I mean, it's straight up the Mandalorians almost have this kind of this very archaic ancient way that kind of is counterintuitive to the rest of the universe, which has become so that, and it's interesting because you see people talk about, oh, a Mandalorian, I've never seen one of you before.
Yeah, that happens like in every episode.
Yeah, someone's like, I've never seen a Mando before, and it's they used to be these great. I think talking about the idea of like the lone cowboy or the wandering samurai or something like that, because obviously people have made references to like the lone wolf and the cub, which is pretty much straight up in there.
Yeah, a cute baby follows a ruthless killer.
Yeah, and it changes him, and they become synchronistic.
You see, I will push back on that a little bit because almost the entire season he is quite a noble character. Mm-hmm. Very rarely does he ever do anything that I'm like, oh, that's like a real rugged anti-hero thing to do.
No, he's never that from the beginning.
Yeah, he's pretty he's cut and dry.
You can tell.
But then again, bounty hunters do hunt down criminals. They're not ruthless murderers.
Well, they also, we've also seen bounty hunters hunt down our heroes when the Empire saw them as criminals,
right.
But you can tell, obviously we'll keep this one, every part of it spoiler free in terms of details, but you can tell this order that bounty law essentially has is very strict, and, you don't go out of it. And if you do, like, I feel like this Mandalorian and a lot of people who would be hanging around would look at someone like Boba Fett and be like, yeah, we don't associate with that guy.
Yeah, because he's
like Boba Fett's a bit of a shitheel. Like,
yeah. Also, he's a bit of a shitheel in Star Wars. Period. Like,
which is kind of the point.
He's all hype, but like no substance at the end.
Which is why I'm glad we have a kind of like a character like Mandalorian.
Yeah, which is why they didn't make this a Boba Fett series. This is a way to do a do-over without doing like Boba Fett actually got out of the Sarlacc pit.
Yeah, we don't need that.
Like, and I prefer, like, and that's the reason, like, there's a IG droid at some point in this series.
Yes.
Like, it's not IG-88 because IG-88 appears for 4 seconds in one movie.
But he happened to be just such
an
awesome
books.
design that it just that whole lineup of the bounty hunters right there just spun off imagination whatsoever.
Yeah,
You
but
know.
it's good because then people would have been like, well, this is not like that one book that I read that had him in it or whatever. Like, I'm happy that like this show took its own liberties. I think that it has dropped the ball on. Look, they're gonna do like at least 3 or 4 more seasons, I bet.
I hope so.
But I wanted like more world building and I wanted more mythology. We've gotten a little bit of it. But I want it to. I'm okay with Star Wars like borrowing the things that it always borrows, but I don't want it to lean on those for too long. Like I don't want this to just become Bonanza. Like, oh, another wacky adventure per episode. Like it's the Naruto thing where like there's a big overarching story, but you have like filler episodes put in there.
That's the shonen thing in general.
Yeah, there's one episode in here that I was like, this is just straight up a filler episode.
Yes.
I don't like it.
There,
you know which one it is.
I do. I do
it's
know
the one
it.
based off an Akira Kurosawa film.
No. Oh, I like that one a lot. Sorry.
What?
I like it a
No.
lot. It's the one after what I didn't like.
Give me a spoiler free.
Well, I'll just say
summary.
it's the gunslinger one.
I don't remember which one that is. Is that the one where he goes to a planet that we have already
Yes.
seen in the
Yes. I thought that was boring.
I
thought that was
did
boring.
too. I thought the other one was more boring. I think the other one is just them like there's a difference between like, oh, we borrow ideas from things that we've had in the past like westerns, but then just like we're going to literally borrow a plot that has been used in multiple movies and films.
But
and
talking
do it
about
over.
world building and talking about things, it features.
Also, he gets beat up by Gina Carano, which doesn't make him look as intimidating as a
Oh,
man.
but Gina Carano in this is a
She's
is a
good.
super cool shock trooper character.
Yeah.
But I'll say in that episode that I really liked it. Because I actually was looking forward to the episodic nature. I wanted it to be almost a little bit more kind of like something like Samurai Jack, where I love that
Yes.
show was like this character of such high skill and moral authority shows up and uses that to change the area that he's in. I'm like, I
Yes.
like that a lot.
But you gotta like give me an overarching story
Which this
with an overarching
does.
villain, and I want to like. I haven't seen episode 7 yet. I was
Right.
gonna watch it yesterday, but we forgot to, or we just didn't. And we, I want to get to a point where like, what's an overarching villain? How is this gonna tie in with the larger Star Wars universe? And I want it to make sure it goes someplace. I'll give it to the last 2 episodes so I can actually like see like. Is there a thing that we're going to? I hear the last episode, the 7th one, not the last one, but the 7th episode that was released like yesterday is quite good because a lot of people are flipping out about it.
You'll see about it because I also the last episode before this, episode 6 was we get a little very vague backstory kind of stuff and we get some really cool character stuff. That was one filler episode that I was like, neato. I like that.
Are we talking about the Bill Burr episode?
Yes, we're talking about we're doing the heist.
It's a glorified filler episode, but it's the kind of filler episode that I'm like, yeah, because what it doesn't add to plot, it adds to mythos and world building.
And that's
like there's a little
that succeeds very well.
Yeah, there's a little line where someone says something like, if the Mandalorians are all so fearsome, he goes, why are they all dead? And I was like, that's a great little seasoning on the steak that I want. And
you get a good Gungan reference in there too, and I was like, yeah, that's neato.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It's
I
Jar
was
Jar
like-
Binks burn. Also, Bill Burr roasts somebody in the show, which is pretty good. But I really liked that episode. I want if you give me a filler episode, give me one like that. And also, last prediction: do you think he ever takes the helmet off? Because that's why to keep it spoiler free, they do make a point of a Mandalorian never removes his helmet is like a common theme
Right.
brought up in the show, which would make it clear that Boba Fett and Jango Fett aren't Mandalorians,
Right.
Because they remove their helmet, so they wouldn't associate.
And
with
I
them.
think there is some lore
and
in.
also a Mandalorian wouldn't let himself be cloned,
No.
like that. Either,
Well, I think there is some lore in like the Clone Wars TV series and stuff like that, which is canon. It's still I think it is still canon. Where I think they talk about Boba Fett, the Mandalores talk about Boba Fett, and they're just like, yeah, he just got that armor. He's not one of us.
Yeah, he didn't earn it.
Yeah, he didn't earn it. This is the way. This is when you choose this path. That is a path you choose. But yeah, a lot of really great stuff in it. Obviously, fun, some fun characters showing up and actors showing up that I like to see.
Yeah.
I like Werner Herzog.
Jon Favreau is in an episode where he plays one of the numerous excess Mandalorians.
Yes, and he also was in the last episode as well, doing a thing at the end because I don't want to spoil it because it's kind of fan service.
Oh, okay, yeah, don't tell me.
But yeah, they a couple 3 people who show up towards the end of that episode.
It's got what I want to see from like a sci-fi, like a Trigun-y type thing.
Yeah,
like
or even like a Firefly sort of deal.
Yeah,
a little bit too.
I want cool weapons, weird creatures, and like I'll give you the westerny vibes if you give me like the epicness of like a fantasy sci-fi plot.
Again, why I absolutely dig on space westerns like Cowboy Bebop and Firefly and things like that is because it's like
I never got into Firefly. I saw like 3 episodes. Like I know what this is. This is all right.
I'm not a brown coat. I'm not the hugest like super fan of it.
Yeah.
But I love a lot of it.
I'm starting to take and leave Joss Whedon.
No, that's fair.
Point.
But I really have a lot of affinity towards
Cowboy
that show.
Bebop and like Trigun and those shows like. Trigun is literally a space western.
I mean, it's straight up, yeah. 16 billion double dollar man.
Is more, the double dollars. I forgot about that.
Outlaw Star is one of my personal favorites.
The more of like sci-fi weirdness you can give me, the more I'm gonna be like, yeah, I'm on board for this.
And thankfully, Star Wars is one of the universes that can give you that because it's nothing but. A world full of aliens and droids and all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah, but I just don't want this show to devolve into look what we can do with this $15 million per episode budget. That's impressive, but like, it's not about like big. I would watch this show even if it was just like didn't look that good. Like the first episode I saw, I couldn't help but feel like it looks kind of cheap. The first episode.
Well, that's it feels dirty.
The first 12 minutes looked cheap. I was like, those aliens don't look that good. And then like as the show went on, I was like,
you
that
see
looks
some
great.
really great FX work, some really great makeup work, and all that.
You might see Nick Nolte as a weird Muppety character. All right, let's talk about Knives Out.
That was Mando. Yeah. Knives Out.
So I was actually the first time I heard about this movie was like after like the Last Jedi hoopla was happening, and I heard like Rian Johnson is going to direct a murder mystery, and I was like, "There's no way that's going to happen. He's going to be doing Star Wars for the next 4.5 years of his life or whatever, because he's directing a new Star Wars trilogy." And then like they announced the cast, and like I remember I didn't hear anything about it until me and her saw that trailer in the theaters for whatever.
Which feels like it wasn't that long ago either.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah. And then I remember like I was in the theater and I heard Daniel Craig say the line like, "I suspect," and he goes, "Foul play," and it was like the most on the nose line I've ever heard in my life. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna see this. It's good.
This has got a point of view of some kind."
So, expectations going in. What did you want from this movie, or did you want anything at all, or was it just like a thing you wanted to go and see?
Being somebody who likes Rian Johnson, and I think as we talked about, Brick was a movie I really loved in high school. Yeah. I watched it a ton. I was just like this. I was like, this film is so particularly impressive to me. It is so stylish. It is so cool. It is like the epitome of cool, especially when you're first getting into movies. Then obviously you find out about other movies that inspired it.
Also, off of a little tangent, if you like that movie, there's a movie where Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays a character with a traumatic brain injury called The Lookout.
The Lookout, yeah.
Which is a great movie. It was right around that time. It's Matthew Good and Jeff Daniels.
I remember Jeff Daniels.
It's really good, and I love it.
Yeah. I did see it around that time, but that was the last time I've seen it.
Anyway,
but you get it really, beginning of new career Jogo in that, and it is just, I remember just thinking like, I love this director, I love this style, this is my jam forever. And then as we talked about, Brothers Bloom was like, well, that was something.
It's its own weird thing.
It doesn't
feel like any of his other movies, and I kind of mean that in a good way, but like also like it's the one I'm not jumping to necessarily go watch again.
Yeah, I need to see it again just to kind of get an idea if it still catches interest. Other than it's, again, stylish, cool, and I'm like, okay, I like this director's work. Yeah. Then he does Looper, and I'm like, loved Looper, loved it. I mean, I was surprised to find that there was so much critical like meh towards it, and a lot of people were just kind of snotting on it a little bit, and I was like, I don't understand why.
I'll tell you exactly why. Because it's like it's internet nitpickness where like this is a world where people like got really into like the weeds on like the time travel and stuff, and like this is a world where you can't kill someone in the future, but you can send them back in the time to get back in time to get killed. But time travel is illegal. But like, surely wouldn't the police figure out these people are disappearing from the future and getting murdered in the past?
Right, and it's
stuff.
like, oh, obviously there has to be. If you think about it too much, which I mean, in that diner scene, Bruce Willis sits there and tells you, don't think about it too much.
Yeah, the actor in the movie literally says, I don't want to talk about time travel because we'll be here for 4.5 hours or whatever.
Yeah, I think he literally talks about, I'm just going to end up putting a pencil through a hole and doing the whole thing again. I'm like, thank you. Nice hand wave. I thought that was a fine hand wave.
Yeah.
And it's like,
and I was
we're
like,
getting through this.
It's what I call the who changes the tires on the Batmobile argument.
Exactly.
Like,
Yes.
Who cares?
Yes, who
It
cares?
doesn't matter.
This, again, with Johnson, you already have a film that is more very style.
Yeah.
Except the style, even if the substance may not be exactly like it won't be Primer, where the physics of it is the obsession of
If
the
anything,
film.
Looper is the least stylish of his films in a way.
There are some.
There is. I'm not saying it's not, but I'm just saying like the most stylish thing about the movie would be like some of the scenes. There's a scene where Joseph Gordon-Levitt falls out of the apartment and stuff, and it was like a weird, like the camera turns as he does it, like stuff.
I
like
mean,
that.
more just like the window dressing of the show, like how people like the blunderbusses they use is like,
yeah.
And then like the space bikes and everything.
Yeah, the look,
and,
the props and the look of the film and stuff.
like,
Yeah, I agree there.
Talking about him being, a bit of obviously like an anime fan. There's a scene where Bruce Willis, when he's in China or something, and the assassins come in and they've got these like cool hats and like dusters and everything. And I'm like, oh, that's just straight up. Like, I think that looks cool, and I'm putting that on. It's very Blade Runner-y.
Yeah, it reminded me of like that Kill Bill anime scene.
Yes.
From the chick who
with the
becomes,
Orenishi.
Yes.
Yeah.
It reminded me of like the scene with her dad or whatever at the beginning and stuff. Also, like, there's a scene where like Bruce Willis goes on like a rampage.
Oh yeah,
when he has
he's
the
killing
guns and
kids too. He's like going to like. It's kind of a Terminator moment, and it's really dark.
Yeah, not. I'm not even talking about that. That is there, but like, there's a part where he attacks Jeff Daniels.
Oh, that's right. That's
right. Compound or whatever.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, this does feel like it feels like something you'd see in like Guyver or something, but without any like crazy armored suits. They should remake that movie, like hard R
Guyver?
Power Rangery Guyver.
There's a world for it.
Technically, the second Guyver was rated R, but I would love to watch that movie. Anyway,
then everything here is led up to. I mean, another thing I kind of liked about Looper is me and some friends were doing the 48-hour film festival.
Oh yeah,
and we did a short film. It was our first short film we did to go into the contest, and it ended up accidentally just being a Looper plot. Like, it was before we knew the film was. It was about gangsters who send people back in time on contracts to solve things.
Yeah,
and it was like, and then we saw the trailer for Looper. It's like, ooh, we accidentally stole that story.
Yeah.
Obviously, their film was better.
But everything's like all time travel is not a unique concept anymore, so it doesn't matter. It's like I don't really like get super defensive about it. But that leads
obviously this Chris Nolan movie is going to deal with time travel in some sort of way.
Yeah, or like momentary time travel, and also like, well, if you can go into the past and like learn the stock market and then go back to the future, wouldn't that change? Shut the fuck up!
Leave
it doesn't matter.
Chill out, Biff.
Yeah,
you get the almanac later.
Yeah, like it's like I don't care. Like when I go see time travel movies, like every single one, I go into it and I'm like, something's not gonna make sense, and I don't care.
Yeah.
Like
the minutia is not. You're there for what they do with it that's interesting.
Yeah, I like the feel at the end of Looper was like, did this mean anything?
Mm-hmm.
Like he kills. Spoiler for Looper, darling. When Joseph Gordon-Levitt
and our other darlings out there.
Yeah, when Joseph Gordon-Levitt kills himself to kill Bruce Willis, and like it implies
it ends the loop.
It does, but does it stop the Rainmaker from becoming the Rainmaker?
Which is the kid, the psychic kid who has the Akira powers, and it's like, is he going to be this horrible world-controlling despot?
Yeah, which is also very anime.
Yeah. And I love that you don't see anything of it. That's one thing I think he leaves a lot of things you don't know what happens.
Yeah, he leaves it ambivalent to the point where you can sort of see what you want to see, but also like I like to think that it doesn't change anything. I like to think that it's such a dark movie that it's like none of this means anything. He's still going to become a
closed
killer.
loop does not mean anything bigger than it's the sum of its parts.
Yeah,
I need to watch it again before I kind of.
There was a great video game. It was like a gothic vampire game called Soul Reaver.
Yeah, I know of Soul Reaver.
Yeah, with time travel, and the way they dealt with time travel was so great that I'd love to like. There's a part where like if you go back in time and change something, the heartbeat of the world like disorients and reality changes in front of you and you have to roll with the punches.
Ooh, that's neato.
There's a part where like no one's gonna understand what any of this fucking shit is. There's a part where Raziel goes back in time and he recreates the Soul Reaver because Cain goes back and uses the Soul Reaver to kill an old king, but he was tricked into killing the old king so it would launch a crusade against all vampires. And then when he comes back, he's in like a time where everyone who was a vampire has been horribly crucified, and it's like none of it makes sense and it's so complicated, but by the end of the story I was like, that's what I want. Like if I want a time traveling thing, make it that dense or just hand wave
the repercussions
it away.
Yeah. And don't worry, I have friends who know exactly what you're talking about who just recently replayed some of those games.
Yeah, those games are genius. They're so story driven that like that's everything I want in a game. Anyway, we've waxed nostalgically.
Yeah, and we're not going to get into TLJ. That's a whole other episode. Rian Johnson directed that one.
Yeah, again, The Last Jedi, not his most stylish movie.
No, because I mean, it's got hints of his style in it, but it is also he's inheriting a whole new package that he has to work in anyway.
Yeah. So I was expecting this movie to be like once I saw the trailer and stuff, I was
we're just getting
once I saw the trailer, I was very intrigued to be like, what's this gonna be about, and is it gonna do that thing in like murder mystery movies where like, oh, it's like there's a whole cast of characters and any one of them could have done it, but they pull the rug and go, none of them did it. It was this person you've never seen.
I thought what was going to happen was it was going to be like an Agatha Christie sort of thing, and these characters are going to start getting killed off one by one.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, okay, the Knives Out, the personal problems everyone is having is going to lead to dead bodies on every corner.
Yeah, you would have imagined something like that because it's called Knives Out and there's knives in the trailer art.
Yeah,
he's got a big thing of knives behind him on like, and they're like, no, nothing happens with it.
Not quite like that.
Anyway, did you like it?
I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's actually one of the few movies that I've seen this year where I would just say like, oh, I can recommend this to anybody because it's such a, I mean, obviously it's a murder mystery caper, but it's got such a light touch and such a niceness to it. And I'll get back to that about the theme of niceness and kindness.
Yes, I will too.
Because that's something I found very refreshing in it. It's full of fun performances. Yeah. It's got such a great cast.
For a movie about murder, it's quite fun.
Yeah, it's got a lot of good funny moments. I mean, you've got some of my favorite people in it. I mean, Michael Shannon's in it. I'm still loving seeing Don Johnson pop up in things a lot more.
Yeah, he's good. He's in Watchmen. He's in
Watchmen. I just finished that.
Apparently the finale of Watchmen's really great. I will not apologize for saying that I think Dr. Manhattan looks real bad. But anyway, keep going.
I found it fun.
I'm gonna watch it, and I'm sure I'll probably like it. I'm curious. For Watchmen is a show that's about a social commentary on superheroes, and that whole show strikes me as like has very little to do with what Alan Moore's novel is about, which is commenting on superheroes. Where this just looks like a sequel to that world taken very seriously and stuff.
It's something. I'll say that. I'm still struggling with that show a bit.
Yeah.
So
I believe it's good because I like Damon Lindelof more than I don't. But get back to whatever you were saying about it's fun.
Yeah.
Fun.
Good casts all around. It's got one of my favorite actors, Lakeith Stanfield, hanging out as one of the detectives.
He's just out in the back.
He's
come a long way since that Death Note remake.
Yeah, since he played L. He's become one of my favorites. I'll watch anything with Lakeith Stanfield. He's so good.
He's good.
This lead actress who I was not very familiar with is, I mean, we'll talk. We're probably gonna spend a lot more time talking about
it's hard to talk
Daniel
about this
Craig
movie without spoilers and stuff. He's great in this.
He's. I will open up and just say I want more Benoit films.
Yeah, I would watch a whole series.
I would watch a whole series of this character. And in fact, going back to his.
In fact, if Rian Johnson doesn't make time to at least produce or write another one of these, because he wrote and directed this.
Yep.
If he doesn't make time to at least like produce another one of these movies with someone else telling a fun mystery story, I will be genuinely disappointed.
Yeah, if this can't be a new like Poirot character, like because it's literally because it has no I mean, it lives in the pulp mystery world.
Yes.
Like it's like something that does not exist in our world, at least major, which is famous sleuths.
Yes.
There are no famous sleuths.
We have no famous sleuths.
There
in
are
our
no
world,
there are
and I
no
feel
quirky
jilted.
famous sleuths anymore.
We
but
don't have a Benoit. What's his name?
yeah, I can't. You'll have
remember.
to pull it up. But yeah, we don't have a Poirot. We don't have a Sherlock Holmes.
Clouseau.
Yeah,
I guess
I'd
he's an
expect-
idiot.
yeah,
but
he's
like
an idiot,
this-
but he gets the job done.
I feel like we should have one in our world. We should have
Yeah.
a famous detective
famous
who just solved
detective.
the blank murders, and like we don't have it. It's
Some
not
good,
fair.
it's some light stuff. Solves a couple of art thieves. Some like paintings get stolen. Anyway.
But yeah, he's great. That the main actress is someone
She-
I've seen several times and just can't remember her name or where I've seen her. She's really.
We probably
good.
should look it up as we continue talking.
Yeah,
because-
I'll pull
yeah.
up the stuff and let you talk a little bit.
Because you're in it for because the trailer doesn't really hint a lot that it's her story. It's
Anna de Armas is her name.
Anna de Armas, and the trailers don't hint at all that it's going to end up being her story, and she's the heart and soul of this. Well, so is oh goodness, I can't remember his name right now.
Christopher Plummer.
Yes, Christopher Plummer is also the heart and soul
Yeah.
of this. The victim himself. It's Christopher Plummer is the one who
Yeah,
who
in the-
is-
in the
who is
trailers, they
who's
tell
the
you.
one who is murdered.
Yeah.
and he's a famous mystery
Or is
writer.
he?
Yeah. Well,
Technically, he is.
Technically, he is, yeah. And we'll keep it surface level at the
Yeah.
moment, but it ends up being her story. She's the help. She's the maid. She does all the work, but she has this intimate relationship with this man
Yeah.
as close friends. That has now that's where the side of the film's interesting social commentary comes in, is this delicate balance of how this family of privileged, snotty people view her.
Plutocrats, yeah, whatever.
Yes, and
Some of them nicer to her than others in
Right,
a way.
but in the
but
end,
all
when-
a little.
when-
There's a little bit or a lot of like coercion in all of them towards her at some point or another.
I'm kind of reminded a little bit because there is a theme definitely of. Because I'll get into it because we'll talk about the theme related into it because it is surprisingly a socially aware film.
Yeah, it's a little on the nose.
Because I remember you sent a message to me about it saying this film surprisingly talks a lot about immigration.
Yeah, it's
and
the
things like
it's
that.
the immigrant's journey in America in a way, and it's the house would be America, and these people in the house would be your natives, and then this person comes in, and do immigrants harm societies or do they enrich societies or whatever, and one of the things that I thought I was worried about when watching this movie, because about halfway through, maybe before, I was worried that Daniel Craig's character was a very stylish but inept idiot.
Yes,
There's a
yes.
part where someone is, not to keep it spoiler free, is someone is covering up clues in front of him. And hey, hi, sweetheart. There's a part where someone is covering up clues in front of him, and I was very worried that he was going to be like
That he
not
might be
see any
secretly
of
a
this.
Clouseau.
And I was like, oh my god, maybe he's a moron. Maybe he bumbled his way through all these cases. And I don't know why that made me so angry.
Yeah.
Because I wanted him to be like a great sleuth
because
or
we don't
whatever.
get those.
Yeah.
Again, they don't exist in life, so we want the competent, good-hearted but genius prodigy to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
What I find interesting also is, and it's something that because it is definitely I'm the reason why I'm able to recommend this film for so many people is that I like that it surprises people. That I was surprised by this film because of its themes, because the family is all connected to the literary world.
Yeah,
And it- for
small spoilers, Christopher Plummer plays a famous mystery writer who has like a multi-million-dollar empire. Or
He's-
something.
he- yeah,
and
he's
all of his
been-
family to some degree are connected to it,
and they're all benefited from it in some way. We see like
except maybe Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah,
who
they-
seems to have done it mostly herself.
yeah, and but they're all brother. But we should pull up the cast real quick because I there's some people I can't remember at the
Yeah,
moment.
we got Chris Evans who
Yeah.
plays his grandson. We have Anna de Armas who plays Marta Cabrera.
and Chris Evans is a whole extra thing in there.
Yeah, Daniel Craig, he's great. Daniel Craig, Detective Benoit. Catherine Langford as Meg.
Oh, yeah.
Weird
The
kid from It, Jaden Liebherher as Jacob. Toni Collette,
Toni Collette,
who is gross and repulsive, and I hate her in this movie. as Joni Thromby, Jamie Lee Curtis as Linda Drysdale, Lakeith Stanfield as Detective Lie something, I can't remember. Michael Shannon as Walt Thromby, and Christopher Plummer as Harlan, and Don Johnson plays Jamie Lee Curtis's wife, husband Morris.
Yeah, who brings in the other side, and then Noah Sagan, of course, a staple for all of Rian Johnson's films.
Oh yeah, who's he?
He's the other cop.
Oh, the one who likes Christopher Plummer.
Yeah, he's always like, I had to say, I really love your work.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see. Hi, buddy. More guest stars.
Yes.
We got to leave by 4:30, right?
Yeah, but you're not going to be done.
Yeah, we will.
Oh, we're gonna be done. We're wrapping soon. So anyway, what's so interesting, and this film actually reminded me a little bit of how the race relations were in something like Get Out, where on the surface they're just like, oh yeah, we're very progressive, we're very thoughtful, because the you can see the characters who are we love having you here, we think representation is so important, right down to the kid who's literally like,
get out of my country, anchor baby.
yeah,
Or
who's
whatever,
literally an
whatever he said.
alt-right piece of shit on a Twitter, and I'm not alt-right piece of shit on Twitter, and I thought that would play more into it. Doesn't.
It's kinda
it's
just-
more of a joke, really,
yeah,
but it's a joke I liked.
It is, but it's also like it's simultaneously very on the nose, but also completely
But it's also
inconsequential to the plot.
but that's also kind of like a heritage of mystery thrillers, is that they are kind of looking at the audience of the time, and then every character is a substitute for a certain social class.
Yeah,
so
to a
it's like,
degree.
yeah, this family would have a little shitheel teenager who's a internet Nazi, and then like, you know, the husband
Don Johnson.
Don Johnson's character is just kind of like, well, you know, everyone has a, you know, he's like, I'm just saying.
Yeah. Before we get into spoilers, one thing I'm going to say, I loved this movie too. I definitely would recommend anyone go see it. It made for about $40 million. It's made 129 or something so far.
Yeah.
So relatively profitable. So hopefully we'll do something
any
more
kind
with
of
it.
Last Jedi controversy did not stop this film.
Did you care for the way this is not a spoiler. But did you care for the way Christopher Plummer was at first murdered? Like that scene?
I thought that was. So this movie has a couple of really smart, tense moments
Yes.
that break the tone
So there's
of humor,
Yeah.
by making all of a sudden, because they become edge of your seat things,
Gripping,
but
yeah.
that you don't see coming, and they're very clever.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
two of them with Christopher Plummer. There's the first one, and then there's what it actually is.
Right.
The first one, at first I was like, oh, we're gonna find out who did this early, but you do and you don't. But
Right.
when I saw that scene, I was kind of horrified for the person, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah,
And
I was like, if this is what's happened, then this is going to take me on he subverted my expectations, and we're going to go on a different course in this film.
yeah.
But obviously,
there's a yeah. I thought that was really great and really tense.
terrifying.
but not in like I wouldn't say terrifying as much as I would say it's just like you feel really awful. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like there's a scene where Chris Evans tells everyone to eat shit.
Yeah.
Which is pretty great.
Because Chris Evans is the black sheep of the family.
Yeah,
he's also a great character in this, because he's kind of.
And I think this is a great opportunity to get into spoilers. Let's go ahead.
We'll go ahead and say. You know, from this point on, we'll be talking about the nitty gritty, because it's a mystery.
Yeah.
It's a murder mystery, so we got to talk about the whodunit of the whodunits.
So definitely go see it if you can. Even if you didn't like The Last Jedi, I would say there's a chance you would really love this movie.
This is up
go
there
see
in Rian Johnson. This is definitely one I want to watch again.
Yeah. So basically, at the beginning of this movie, it opens with the fact that Christopher Plummer is already dead.
Yes.
And we're working backwards from that, essentially.
Right, because everything is related to this parlor, like, night before sort of deal. And so all the evidence and all the...
he died yesterday. And
Yeah.
they're literally Daniel Craig shows up, and he's wanting to rework the scene. Where was everybody during this? He's doing all the detective work.
Because it also should be noted, Daniel Craig also doesn't know why he's there. Someone mysteriously hired him, and he's like, well, I just want to know why I'm here in the first place.
Yeah, and
but not that I'm not
someone
having
sent
fun.
him an envelope of $20,000 or whatever to solve this murder or whatever
before it even happened.
Did you like how when so it opens up with him interviewing them? Lakeith Stanfield is doing the interviewing, but they're interviewing the members of the family, and at some points he's dinking on the piano, like he'll hit a note just out of nowhere. I think he's doing that every time he hears a lie.
That's interesting.
I think that's what he's doing.
Because one of the other things about lying in this is that Ana de Armas's character cannot lie. She has a sick aversion.
She pukes whenever she lies.
Whenever she lies, she vomits.
Yeah.
And that automatically, because she's kind of our lead character, but also, spoiler, is the person, at least she believes, is the one that killed Christopher Plummer in a horrible accident.
Yeah.
And so now there's so much fear around her because she is the most vulnerable person here. She's not connected to the family. The family is very suspicious of her, and her family is here undocumented. So if anything goes down, they're out of the country and she's in prison.
Yeah, I definitely felt that. Oh, my headphones are off. I definitely felt because the scene we see is like she is a caretaker for Christopher Plummer, and we see everyone's interpretations of what happened. Not interpretations. We see what they say to Lakeith Stanfield and by proxy Daniel Craig, and then we see what actually happened. There's always like one lie in it. Like Jamie Lee Curtis talks about how she's a self-made person and she built her business empire or whatever. And they talk about how like, oh, was there trouble between Michael Shannon's character Walt, who's Christopher Plummer's son, and he wants to take these
he's
books.
The publisher also.
Yeah, he basically inherited the publishing business, and he was frustrated that his dad wouldn't let him take these books and turn them into like Netflix series or movies or anything like that.
Make some real modern money out of them.
Yeah, and like so we see by proxy what the family think about the rest of the family through this interview. Like Don Johnson is essentially we learned that he's having an affair with against Jamie Lee Curtis. He's having an affair with some other woman while married to Jamie Lee Curtis. We also worried that we're not worried. We also learned that he is sort of living off of her as like an expensive gigolo or an incompetent man-child who
because he's just sort of a boisterous
she signed a prenup, and he basically has to maintain good graces with the rest of the family in order to like maintain some level of wealth and status. We learn
because they're all getting the money from him, and the crux of what happens is that
except Jamie Lee Curtis. And what we learn is that Ana de Armas's character is Christopher Plummer gets real drunk sometimes, and he's supposed to take his medicine. And when he gets drunk, I think he wants to play a game.
He wants to play. Is it chess or Go?
I think it's not chess. It was like Go or shogi or one of those Eastern games.
And which which to him is a sign of respect, and because it's like she can match him.
Yeah,
and that's
they
how
make
their
a point
friendship.
of saying that in the movie that she always beats him or whatever. And while they're playing, she gets his medicine vials out. And she drops them, and then she picks them up. And
she also gives him a little bit of morphine.
Yeah, she gives him some morphine first, and then she gives him his injection. And it turns out as she dropped the medicine vials, she mixes them up, and she injects him with over 100 milligrams of morphine, which will kill you. And then what was supposed to be the morphine dose of like 4 milligrams or something of what would be his medicine. So she inadvertently kills him.
Well, she inadvertently sets it up that he's going to die, so he's like, we got to work out a plan.
Yeah.
So he's like, well, since I'm a master at this story thing, I'm going to set everything up right now. If you do everything I say, you will get away with this, okay?
Yeah.
And he could technically commit suicide.
Yeah.
In order to make it look like he committed suicide in the first place, but obviously there are some seams that are undone that make it seem suspicious.
Yeah, and like it's a very heart-wrenching scene because she starts crying and she starts
and he's like now you have to realize we're running out of time here.
What I think, do you think that's the only way you could have handled that, or could Christopher Plummer have called someone up and she calls the ambulance, say, this girl accidentally mixed up the medicine and gave me 100 milligrams of this and 4 milligrams of that.
Yeah, but
if I die, do not press charges against her.
Yeah, but you wouldn't have a story.
I know.
I
but
mean,
like,
yeah,
I'm just saying.
at that point, it's just kind of like he's an eccentric.
Yeah, if Clint Eastwood didn't shoot all the bandits in the Western, it would also be no story either.
Right.
Hi, sweetheart. But I felt like
Are you going to be able to not say bad words right now?
I'll try not to swear with her. In here.
Yes.
But I felt like it was really heart-wrenching, and the fact that he's like, he gives her these steps. It's also a very great, like, interesting scene as he goes, you need to go downstairs. My son Walt will be outside smoking his cigar.
Yeah.
Come downstairs, put on my robe, and say, or act like you're me going to get something to
Because
eat.
he won't be able to see through the stained glass.
Yeah.
He's like, I have all this already thought out. If you do this, you will be fine.
Yeah, tell him to tell me. He'll tell you to go upstairs. So run back upstairs and then climb out the window, and that's going to be how you get home, basically.
Right, and
so
obviously
an alibi.
and some things aren't perfect. Some of the climbing up back in the back up the side breaks, and there's the mother. The grandmother who's there, and she sees and thinks, and you just assume that because she's
old and senile, she doesn't understand anything.
and she's like, oh well, it's Chris Evans.
Chris Evans' character.
Because he stormed out earlier.
His name is Ransom.
Yeah,
Ironic
Ransom
that his name
stormed
is
out
Ransom.
earlier, and Ransom is kind of the lightning rod, and they had this huge argument. So it's like,
Yeah, earlier in the night, Chris Evans talks to Christopher Plummer, and it becomes clear that something bad went down, and he storms out. And the grandmother says, oh, Ransom, you're leaving? And he slams the door and walks home and stuff. I also think it's very interesting that none of the dogs like him.
yeah,
Or the dogs love him, but every time he walks by the dogs, he's like, oh, God, get away from me. And he's
which kind of sets up
very
some things.
un-Captain America of him. It's
Yeah.
weird seeing him like as a smarmy, gross character.
Yeah, you could tell ahead of time, despite where it's going, that he's a sort of immoral bad boy in a good sweater.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah,
that's like the scene where he tells everyone to eat shit is so funny.
Yeah, because it's also like you're sitting there saying, "Oh, good for him." Yeah, all these people should eat shit a little bit.
Yeah, they are. They're
but
not
he
good
also
people.
kind of has a vibe of like he kind of throws around some like subtly racist stuff. Like he's just kind of like I owe nothing to nobody.
Yeah.
He's like a man of no principle.
Yeah.
And but he ends up becoming. What's her character's name? Real quick.
Marta?
Marta ends up becoming Marta's ally because, like, look, because of what happens is the will is read. There's a will that was made, and it was made at a certain time, and the will says Marta gets everything.
Everything. The house, money,
the
book
money,
company,
and
everything.
And at that point, all kindness and caring that the family had for her turns to absolute hatred
Yeah,
or
essentially.
manipulation.
For the most part, everyone is at least a little bit coercive towards her or actively full of animus. And like there's a part where one of the younger girls, Toni Collette's character, married one of Christopher Plummer's sons who's now dead, and he gives her money, which she
gives to
her daughter to
who's
go to school.
Who's a closer friend to Marta than anything.
But even she is kind of like, I might not be able to go to school. I need money from you. Like she has this slight ulterior motive
where it's like,
also revealed that Toni Collette is double dipping the money. She's getting twice the amount of what's necessary for school and taking the other half and putting it into her social media thing.
Right, because she's an influencer of some sort.
Yeah.
And it's also sort of like that night was the night before Christopher Plummer died that he cut everybody off. That he's like, I am cutting all you ungrateful people off.
Do you like in this movie that what actually kills Christopher Plummer is Marta's kindness? Because it's revealed that Chris Evans is the person that actually kills Christopher Plummer.
He is the one that has set up everything. Christopher, he is the done it. He is the one. He's the who of the who.
Which I appreciate them not taking a cop out and making one of them the killer. He switches the medicine vials, but when she drops the vials, because she's done this so many times, she knows the weight in her hands.
So
she's good at her.
The tragedy is she got the right dosage.
Yeah.
She did good. She did the right thing.
Yeah.
It's just panic ensued.
Yeah, and then she does that because she's good at her job, and she's maybe the only one in the house who really cares about him.
Yeah, cares
And I
about
was
him
like,
more than his money.
I always like ironic tragedy like that, is like the no good deed goes unpunished kind of thing.
Right.
It's usually like in a Western when everyone is like a brutal murderer, like the one time an evil mercenary or whatever lets someone live that's the thing that kills him or that causes the plot to converge around him. And her niceness towards him is the one thing that gets him killed in a way.
Yeah.
And it's all done out of the fact that Chris Evans knew he was going to make the will towards her.
Yep.
So he hatches a plot. He climbs up the staircase. So he storms out of the...
And by the staircase, he also goes around the back up the wall.
Yeah,
up the outside
he storms
wall,
out of the house,
the lattice,
makes sure everyone sees him, and he climbs up the garden lattice, sneaks into the medicine bag, and he switches the stuff around, and then he leaves again. And then he leaves. Except when he leaves, old Granny McSenile sees him. I can't remember her name. And she goes, "Oh, Ransom, you're back again?" And then as... what's the name? As Marta's character is leaving, doesn't she get seen too?
And
by the lady?
but she's like, "Oh no, it's Bus," and then she says, like, "Ransom," and it's like she's like, "Oh, thank goodness she didn't recognize it," but
she did.
She did,
Yeah,
because he was there just a moment ago. Because at this point, all this is coming to a point. Benoit, who is
Benoit
becomes
Blanc,
her,
that's his name.
Benoit Blanc is her only ally. He is still just like, something's not quite right.
Yeah.
That's where you're like, you start getting nervous, like, does he really know what he's doing? Because
Yes.
we now know what happened.
Yeah.
The audience is now privy to what happened. It's just, thankfully, Johnson gives us a culprit.
I also like the way that he uses... Daniel Craig uses Marta as his lie detector. So he'll ask her, is Miss Dawn Johnson having an affair against Jamie Lee Curtis? And she's like, no.
And then she'll run to a
And then
potted
she throws
plant
up.
and just like, there you go. And she plays that. There are certain points later in the movie, I won't get into all the details of, where she'll, like, she'll be able to lie because she got in the car and yarfed in a thing of soda.
That's great, yeah. And there's also another part in the movie where she ironically uses the only thing that lets her do the best thing she can do, which is catch the man who killed this man she likes, is lie.
Yep.
So there's another like little
Because he
piece
does
of
that with
irony
Chris
there.
Evans and then pukes in his face.
Yeah,
right?
because she tells him. I can't remember what she tells him. She tells him that Chris Evans also kills another person technically in this movie, and
Yes,
she
yeah.
lies and says she's alive at the hospital, so she's gonna confess and take you to jail. And
because
he goes,
he's also setting everything up
and he go, yeah,
to have her look like she killed again.
Yeah.
And to put her down for good.
Yeah, and what happens is it's such a great scene because Chris Evans confesses to everything, and he says, "It doesn't matter. I'll get out in a few years, and when I do, I'm gonna blankety blank. You think you can come into my house and take our money, and someone who wasn't even born here doesn't share our blood? ... Immigration,
Right.
A very heavy nod to the immigration thing.
And
then she
seething white anger.
Yeah, and then she pukes in his face, and I was like, she just lied. She's dead, and you just confessed to murder. And then he tries to kill her with the fake knife.
Because he's got a wonderful
Game
wall
of Thrones-y
knives,
array of knives.
blades.
And there's a part earlier in the movie where he goes, "Oh, none of these people can even spot a prop knife or whatever," which is weird that he has
A prop knife on the
knives
list.
because he doesn't let his works become movies. So
Right.
like, why are they there?
It's just for
It'd be
funsies. It's just for funsies.
I guess,
he's
yeah.
just like, of course I'm gonna put a prop knife
Did
there, but
you-
it turns out it's the prop knife.
Yeah, did you like how it's such a anticlimactic scene? It's so stylish, like this everything.
It's slow-mo and
It's like something out of
everything.
Scott Pilgrim,
Yeah.
where like it splits screen for a second and like he stabs her.
Which is
and
funny
he's
because it's
like,
Chris
"Oh."
Evans also.
Yeah, and yeah. So did you like how bloodless this movie was, or did it bother you? Was it uncharacteristic of
think-
Johnson?
I think when I found out what the movie was about, when you get the tone of the film at the moment when Plummer dies.
Yeah.
Where they share that moment, you're like, okay, this is what this is.
Because the trailer makes you think that like the knives are going to come out for each other.
Yeah,
but they come out.
I thought it was
for
going to be
her.
I thought it was going to be we're going to open a door and Michael Shannon's dead. We're going to open a door and Toni Collette is dead, and we're going to be down to like one person.
Yeah.
And,
Toni
and-
Collette is so schmarmy here. She's
Yeah.
she's really good. I appreciate it, but like, God, I found her so
And
insufferable.
I'll bring this up about one thing. It's not that I didn't like it. It's just I kind of wish they
Is it
did.
the dumb car chase she goes on?
No, not at all. It's. I wish that there had been a second culprit because Chris Evans. It's not surprising that he's the one who did it because he's played up as the most.
He's the one who has the clearest motive to do so.
Yeah, and he already shows that he's kind of a an untrustworthy, slimy person
who no one likes.
Yeah, I was kind of
I
hoping.
remember there's the scene where Michael Shannon roasts him to his face, and it's really good.
Because he's all sitting there just like, you got nothing on me. Whatever, I don't care. Yeah. I was kind of hoping he had an ally, like someone on the inside. And so for a second, I actually think it would have been interesting. It's probably just me and how I feel about things. I kind of wanted the kid to have been like his guy on the inside, like they share.
Oh, the gross Nazis.
Yeah, because like
Ryan Johnson can like low key make Nazis the bad guys.
Yeah, because I was like, he sounds like somebody who would like, they'd be like, hey kid, right? Am I right about these folks and everything? So he has him on the inside change everything, but that didn't happen, obviously. No. But that was something I was like, maybe, because if I did, I'd be like, that'd be neat. That's me. I would think that was neat.
Did you get like I thought it was really fun watching Benoit put it all together
because he's so
frustrated and
he's
he's
frustrated,
like,
but then his
enthusiasm
hits to the top because he's also him being there. It is a Benoit Blanc story. If it was a book, it'd be like Benoit Blanc in the case of the da-da-da, but it is Marta's story, and he is just another player in the whole thing, but he's the one in the end who has to make all the connections to be like, this is what happened. And I got to give it up to Daniel Craig, who has spent so long being the stoic brick of a James Bond that you have now get to see him in these lighter.
He's good.
I mean, I saw the trailer for the new Bond.
Yeah.
And it was shocking to hear him with his English accent because I got so used to him.
And also him back to being like this angry man.
Well, I can tell
he's been in this and like Logan Lucky, and it's like he's kind of like he's having fun and stuff.
He loves that Southern accent.
Yeah,
and he plays it off really well.
Because he knows the new director's going to ask him to run as James Bond, and he put it in his contract. He's not running anymore.
Yeah,
every action scene is no running.
And we talked about it last time with the Bond. I think he's going to have a little more character in this one. I can tell, but I think he's like, let me act more.
Yeah,
I'm not just a brick of a man, you know.
At the end of the movie, they're all basically kicked out of their house, and Marta's standing in the house that she got.
And
is it meant to be like subversive? It's like this is white America's greatest fear. A Hispanic person becomes president or something. And like, is it subversive, or is Ryan Johnson like, no, this is terrifying. I don't like brown people.
Oh, not at all. 100% ain't that. But she's got the mug. And it's the my house, my rules.
Yeah.
And for one thing, and we'll close it up coming up pretty soon, the theme of kindness. Marta, at her heart, being the main character, is a legitimately compassionate, good, caring individual.
And it causes all of her problems.
And it causes all of her problems, all her struggles and everything. And Benoit ends up being the one saying, of course, your kindness is the virtue that is both putting you in danger and is going to save you in the end. So, obviously, at the end, they're all looking up at her, scowling. She got everything.
Why does Jamie Lee Curtis care? She has like a multi-million-dollar business.
It's the principle behind it. She's also like, how dare this? Because I think when they found out, she's throwing epitaphs at her as well and everything.
Yeah. They do give her a nice little ending where her dad used to leave her letters that could only be uncovered with heat, and that's how he tells her. He writes a letter that he was going to give to her, and like Don Johnson finds a letter and there's nothing on it. He's like, oh, stupid old man. He crumbles it up, and then she finds it and puts it over heat and reads it. So like she kind of has a little
she's a little more sympathetic. She's a little more like, I know what's going on.
Yeah, it's her kind of Toni Collette's daughter. And
she gets desperate to not have that art school lost, but she's manipulated by the family to play against her.
Yeah.
Because they start using her as a conduit.
Right.
Obviously, I think that if this film was 30 minutes longer, Marta would be like, you can have the house. You can have the house. I'm not going to cut you people out. She is an example of compassion.
Yeah.
She's like, she is clearly going to be like, we can work a money deal out and all this. I'm not going to leave all of you out because you were bad to me, because that's not the point. My goodness and the goodness of good people is not the punishment of bad people who could be better.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Johnson's getting at, is like, these people could be better, but
Not
they're
all of them
spoiled
are,
rotten.
Yeah, the worst thing that someone does is like Don Johnson has a weird what's the word, soft racist rant.
Yeah.
Where he's like, if you want to be in this country, you come in here the right way.
And then he uses her like, I want to use you as a reason. Like, you guys did that, right? And
yeah. To say nothing that it takes sometimes 20 years for someone to immigrate to America.
Right. And also Marta's family is undocumented also. So she's kind of like, well, not really. You're just using me as a quick example because I'm a friend.
Yeah.
And you can't do that.
And it just strikes you those really uncomfortable conversations you have at Thanksgiving with a dumb uncle or somebody. My uncle is very smart, and we never have to have these conversations. It's great.
But he balances, like he said, the politics of it are a bit on the nose at times, but I think the lightness of the tone of the film, the focus on the caper and everything, and Armis's performance, Craig's performance, everyone else putting in roles that are just perfect right there.
Yeah, I don't want to watch a sequel to this, but I want to watch a Daniel Craig spinoff where he his Hound of Baskerville or something. Maybe even like a slightly darker than this movie.
Yeah, I want a New Orleans Benoit goes back home,
so
French Quarter murder mystery,
a murder in Savannah from The Office,
which because Ana de Armas is going to be in the new Bond, they get to be paired up.
Oh yeah,
again.
that's right. Yeah, okay, good for her. Yeah.
So yep, Knives Out.
It's good.
I enjoyed
Go see it.
Good for Rian Johnson getting another good movie in.
Yeah, even if he doesn't make the next one, like produce it or write it or something and let like another person make it, could become a cool series.
More Benoit Blanc.
Yeah.
More Daniel Craig.
Yeah, I'd watch the shit out of that. This has been a movie date with Rob and Matt, a podcast for people who love movies and don't want to be too smug about it. We got under 80 minutes in here, baby, so I'm kind of happy for myself. And we will be back next time. The next one will probably be Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker.
I have to imagine.
And me and her are gonna go see that movie Bombshell about the Roger Stone Fox News
the Roger Ailes
allegation. Roger Ailes. Roger Stone is in jail now, but we'll do a Mandalorian one, but we still have to
at some point.
Maybe we'll do. No, I don't want to do both Rise of Skywalker.
No. The Rise of Skywalker is going to be a whole film, the whole episode.
So that's going to be the next episode, and you guys
excited.
keep listening and like us on Facebook and like my studio, Horizon Studios here. Matt, do you have anything you want to plug or anything that you do?
Not at the moment.
Acting troupe?
No, nothing. Nothing going on. Just glad to be doing this. Just a happy holidays. We'll see you guys. Well, I guess we'll be having one more before the year is out, maybe.
Yes, that's the
next
idea.
time you hear from us will probably be 2020.
Yeah, probably. I hope so. Yeah. The Joker episode will be coming out soon. I thought I deleted it, and then I found it again. I was so terrified because I was like, "Oh no, it's
Joke's
gone."
on us.
Yeah, that'll be uploaded probably end of tonight, hopefully, and then it's BVS, and then this one. So yeah, I don't know why I'm probably gonna cut this last part out because the listeners don't care about this. We're done.
We're done.
Bye.
Take it easy.